There they are.
They're on. Yeah. Okay, welcome everyone. Happy New Year. It is January 6th, 2026. Welcome to our 9 o'clock board briefing session. Let the record reflect that we do have all 5 commissioners are present. Commissioner French and Commissioner Kearns are on Zoom. The rest of us are in the conference room. Good to be back. It seems like it's been a nice, hopefully everybody had a nice break. And we're gonna just get going because I think we have a busy morning as we get out of our session. We have several executive session items. So we start off with Kevin Ritchie, I'm sure.
Good morning. First off, you recall back on December 9th, I presented a grant opportunity for the Financial Fraud and Identity Theft Task Force. Part of that money was set to go to Spokane Police for their participation in the task force. So this is just a request to enter into a sub-award agreement with the Spokane Police Department for $20,000. 10,000 of it's for training, but again, that comes from that grant that we applied for and received, so no cost to the county.
Thank you.
All right, and the second one is we received the formal request to modify the Spokane Valley interlocal agreement for law enforcement services. They've had, if you recall, last year they passed the sales tax. They're going to add 10 new positions to the contract. There's kind of a breakdown of what they want to add. However that works out over the year will be on that. But we have developed a worksheet for what the cost is going to be, and so we are asking for sort of a budget amendment to add $2.47 million to our budget so we can pay for those 10 officers. Again, that'll be recouped by the contract. So however the billing goes for that to recoup the cost, but we estimated it would cost about $2.47 billion or $1 million. That'd be quite the budget. But this includes everything. This is the legal cost for hiring the new deputies, the cost of upfit the vehicles. I know they pay for their own vehicles, but we still have to budget for them, and then the budget comes through. This is buying firearms, Axon licenses, and everything. So
For each of the 10.
that's for each of the 10, yeah.
And then I've not seen it on, it's for next week's agenda.
For
The
which one?
agreement.
The agreement, yes,
Okay,
I believe.
okay. I've just been talking to the press. I've seen it about this item, so I just want to make sure that people are, we're getting briefed this morning and it'll appear on next week's 2 o'clock agenda.
I received the letter, and so I just want to make sure we're getting ahead of the budget so we don't fall behind as far as the budget goes.
So since this is a larger dollar amount, since they're adding so many new officers and all the equipment, how will that then get reimbursed? Will it be happening in this calendar year? Or I know we have this kind of back and forth with the contract and we reconcile it. And I know we've been trying to get better at getting that done faster. So just wondering.
That would probably be a better question for the budget office, but I know they're billed monthly, and so I don't know if that can increase the costs.
So there is a monthly billing, and then there's some reconciliation at the end of the year for other costs that weren't included, or
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes a little time, but they do pay on a regular basis, correct, Scott?
Yeah, they get there's a budget set at the beginning of the year with anticipated costs that then determines what they pay monthly. The settled adjustments you referred to, Commissioner is a following year activity. We'll have to look at this, and it probably makes more sense with the budget amendment being requested by the Sheriff's Department to do a revised budget to the city. So they begin to pay for those costs as they come on, but it will be unknown as to when the hiring takes place. So there'll be some timing considerations there. Yeah, that probably makes most sense.
I can speak a little to the hiring. We anticipate hiring within the first couple of months, and we have a large group that are coming on in don't quote, I think January and I know March, so a lot of those positions go fairly quickly. And there's a lot of upfront cost filling positions, and that's kind of why we want to get the ball rolling on this, because you know, the BLEA costs and the equipment, all that other stuff takes toll.
It would just, I'm just commenting that it would increase the monthly bill that we send to the valley, so just making sure we have the cash flow to handle that and that we're getting that reimbursement
No, you're right
on a
on.
regular basis, so.
You're right on.
And it was originally requested from the City of the Valley, so it's, they know it's coming.
Right, just getting all the accounting in order.
So the new positions were not included in the budget that we've already talked. That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Because I think we hadn't gotten the formal letter from the Valley requesting them. It was part of their budget process. So as they put it into their budget process, then it came to us. It's my understanding. So
That's precisely why we wanted to make sure that we did the budget process and we followed the direction of the budget office and the board to come in at the same level we were last year. And it would have been guessing what they were gonna do until they had a formal agreement. I know they had passed a tax or a sales tax, but
stating what they wanted to do. but
they still have
in
decided
their
what they were
budget,
doing.
yeah.
And like I said, some of the positions, they want detective positions and some other things. So those are gonna be an increased cost. They're not just flat deputy costs for that. So I wanted to wait and see what they were actually gonna do with those.
Any questions?
That's it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, that's gonna take us to Carl. No, but they can see, yeah,
Okay.
or you can sit here if you want to, I don't. It's like, it's that way, if you go too far forward, you don't get on the screen, so we want to make sure Commissioner French and Commissioner Kearns can see.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Kearney, Kenny, and members of the County Commission. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Carl Otterstrom, the Chief Executive Officer of STA. I have with me my colleague, Interim Chief Planning and Development Officer, Emily Poole. And we're hoping to take this time to update you on our planning efforts, our implementation outcomes of STA moving forward, as well as the Connect 2035 plan. And so we'll talk to that, and I know you have a packed agenda, so we'll be respectful of your time. We can move to the next slide. So in 2016, voters approved a sales tax measure to provide for more and better transit service around the region inside the public transportation benefit area, which is STA's municipal boundaries as a transit agency. And that, if we go to the next slide, it sought to increase the sales tax by 0.2 cents, subject to a sunset clause in the end of 2028. And that included a tenth that would go into effect on April 1 of 2017, and the second tenth in April of 2019. The sales tax, the sunset in that sales tax authorization was meant to be an accountability measure to ensure that STA was delivering on the projects and commitments. Also, as part of the plan and the funding plan, it included increasing fare rates, which went up after the tax from $1.50 to $2 for a standard adult fare. The overall plan saw most of the funding going towards expansion and improving of transit, as well as maintaining the system we had through ongoing replacement of existing bus fleet. Next slide. So I think the video should load. Nope, it's still
PDFs.
okay. So there was a wonderful video that we will get to watch today, but it highlights the changes in the system over the last decade. And that includes not just the City Line or Bus Rapid Transit, which is a major investment inside the city of Spokane, to Gonzaga University and the Spokane Community College, but also major investments around the county, the West Plains Transit Center, which we had 0 riders historically at Medical Lake Interchange there. Now it's about 700 a day, or last year for 2024, about 150,000 annual riders catching a bus at the West Plains Transit Center. To other improvements to include later Saturday night service, longer span on key routes on Sundays, more frequency across many routes in the system, new areas of service. In fact, the West Plains Transit Center, one of the reasons that's a key hub for ridership is the investment Spokane County has made in attracting jobs in the West Plains, particularly Amazon. So some of us were there, years ago now when the county's investments in the build grant was at the time, perhaps, of improving Geiger Boulevard, tied into the investments that STA planned for as part of STA moving forward in both the West Plains Transit Center and in bus service along Geiger Boulevard. And so working hand in hand with the county to integrate bus stops, integrate that coordination with Amazon, we see tremendous ridership out of Amazon. And we've since better connected Airway Heights to that facility and to the West Plains Transit Center. You can see this is overall system 2016. We had just under 400,000 revenue hours of service, and that's how we commoditize, if you will, transit service is an hour. That's a bus with a driver providing service somewhere. So just under 400,000. We are now providing more service than STA ever has, and with 524,000 revenue hours of service on the streets in our community. So a 35% increase. The actual measure committed to a 25% increase. And so part of that was allowed because of our kind of great track record in terms of maintaining costs and good sales tax revenue. So the economic activity of the county has certainly helped. And then the Zero Fare Youth Program, where the state is providing a transit support grant that actually more than offsets the lost revenue from youth ridership to allow us to provide the services. And overall, we were very successful with grants, which allowed us to again deliver more on the overall program. Next slide.
Madam Chair. Carl, could I just, originally when we were envisioning the West Plains Transit Center and access to Amazon, it was we weren't really sure how we'd get people to that last stop, but now do people actually get right to the main entrance?
So
Or how does that work?
yeah, so the West Plains Transit Center is the hub that was actually Amazon announced after as the project was in construction. Well, they didn't announce anything, it was all kind of secret until late 2018. But from day one, we provided service in front of the facility. However, it was complicated by the fact that Geiger Boulevard improvements was still ongoing.
Right.
So the road was basically, we had to do a shuttle route just to serve the facility. And so that was going on from day one. Since then, though, as we've restructured on the West Plains, we have a couple different things that happen. There's a route that runs every 30 minutes on the corridor. There are certain trips and then they connect to West Plains, and then people take transit to either Cheney or Spokane. We also have some early morning trips where the bus starts 4:50 in the morning at Amazon. And I've actually been there to witness the loads of people catching that very first bus, and then goes to the West Plains Transit Center and becomes the bus to downtown. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, we have what we call Route 633, which is a direct Amazon shuttle, because the timing of their work shifts don't line up to the hourly headways on the other routes. So we've been good partnership with Amazon, and Emily's team has been ongoing coordination on changes to the schedule.
Just one other question. What percentage of the ridership is youth, like middle school, high school, that are now using the free pass to get to school or work or wherever?
Our overall ridership for youth is about 20% of system-wide ridership.
And
Now-
what was it before the free pass?
I don't recall offhand, I think around 5 or 6%. I'll just note that some of that youth ridership That includes people historically who are counted as community college and EWU ridership. They're 18 years old, they're freshmen, or they're running start students. So in the past, the university was being charged for those rides. They're still using their card as a student at the university, but we don't charge the university. So but we track it as youth ridership.
Have you, sorry, just one last question. Was there any, have you had any conversations with the school districts about how much money that has reduced their busing costs?
We have, I mean, it certainly helped them to deal with cost escalation, right? That they were, their costs went up dramatically with this last contract.
Well, and there was the coming out of the pandemic, there wasn't enough drivers, there was a lot of challenges.
So the truck is absolutely, and you know, that partnership, actually, we were working with them in late 2021, early 2022, before the legislature acted on the Zero Fare for Youth. So we were already developing a plan to have more students, high schoolers in particular, take STA. And then it basically was poised to help out once the legislature found a way to offset the school district's costs for the rides. Now, the school district, I'll point out, they do, there are two routes we offer. They're open door service, they're regular routes in terms of that kind of service, but they're called student tripper routes, where they are partially subsidized by the school district because we would not run those routes if not for District 81. So they actually cover the costs that are in addition to what we would have collected from fare revenue. So we say, hey, the fare revenue is basically on the Zero Fare Youth Program, but the other costs, which is, you know, generally more than 50%, actually we do charge the school district for that, but in a net effect, they still come out very much ahead. And again, the numbers are hard to track because their costs went up so dramatically at the same time. Your questions?
Thank you.
Just some pretty pictures. I think some elected officials are in those as well. And, you know, we're really proud of our partnership with Spokane County on the Moran Station Park and Ride. The county owns the adjoining trail. We were able to integrate the trailhead into that, and the signage there says parking for transit and trail riders only. So any day of the week when the weather is half decent, you'll see people parked there who are just enjoying the trail, the county trail. Next slide. Just more wonderful photos. And if, you know, one thing you can see in the picture on the left at Moran Station is the overhead charging infrastructure for the electric buses. And so that is one of two places we charge electric buses outside of our depot. And that's worked out great. Our partnership with Vista and supporting that, but also our partnership with the federal government and the state in providing grant funding. We've brought in well over about $37 million in state and federal grants to support the electrification. So the cost, you know, there's challenges, and we're not in a place to add more right now because our capacity is established, but we have been very successful in delivering that. And in fact, our fuel consumption for 2024 was lower, diesel consumption was lower in 2024 than 2023, even as we were adding service. Next slide. So Connect 2035, STA's new strategic plan, was adopted in 2024. Next slide. It has 3 goals, and this is something we learned in developing ST moving forward, and some of the work after we had a failed ballot measure went back out again is really, people don't want to just have projects and things in their neighborhood. They want to understand how it all fits together. And so we, the plan and the boards worked on developing that plan, set out 3 goals: elevate the customer experience of our customers. The second, lead and collaborate with community partners to enhance quality of life in our region. That's really the community, our partners and stakeholders. And the third goal, strengthen our capacity to anticipate and respond to the demands of the region. That's our employees, it's our infrastructure, it's our financial capabilities. Next slide. So we have an actual literal roadmap in the plan with some graphics that show the projects laid out. And if we go to the next slide, some of the projects as examples high performance transit has been one of the most successful parts of STA moving forward with City Line, with other investments in frequency. Route 4, which didn't exist before 2019, is STA's busiest route, carries over 1 million rides a year, which is more ridership than Ada and Canyon counties see in Idaho in a year. We're looking to prepare Route 61 as a future investment in that. So planning for that corridor, which is serving Airway Heights on Highway 2, our Division Street BRT, and planning for that future extension. And then also planning to extend Route 9 in the valley to serve high performance transit needs further east of the valley. Next slide. Mobility on demand. So this is something that in all my time at STA, people have always wondered about neighborhoods that really that are incompatible to transit. They're lower density, they topographical challenges in many cases, and yet they're paying in the tax, they're supporting transit, and in many places they really want to support transit, just don't have access to it. And so we're planning to pilot mobility on demand, which would be basically an app-based, or people will have an option to call as well to call for a ride within 20-30 minutes or less from your home, like an Uber, or from your neighborhood, but not to a final destination necessarily, but to tie you into the transit system. So someone in Lake Tahoe Valley would be able to connect to major stop within the service area, let's say to the City Line, and be able to connect to the rest of the region from that mobility on demand opportunity. So this is something we were planning to start in 2027. We've had a lot of interest in this, and so we've accelerated the time frame as we've developed the final budget the board adopted last month to accelerate this and begin in 2026, targeting the fourth quarter, having that in place in Lake Tahoe Valley, as well as Northeast Spokane Valley, West Spokane Valley, and there's some other targets, pilot areas that are shown there. Next slide. Other customer experience, shelters, and especially a deal like this, are really valuable to customers. It provides a better waiting experience, and that's a key part of how people are introduced every time. It also helps people see that there is bus service at a location when there's something physical like a shelter. We are, as part of the board's policy a few years ago, now expects all shelters to have lighting, something for both safety as well as just overall comfort. We've also implemented already, one of our first projects out the gate was a ambassador program, a transit ambassador. So these are individuals who work with our security department, but they're not security employees. They don't enforce the rules of conduct, but they are out there observing, deterring by just being a uniformed employee, and also just supporting our customers, helping them understand the rules of conduct, as well as how to make a connection, and just to make observations out there every day of the week. They're out there, and it's been very well received by riders and by the community. And then, yes,
Sorry, when you say out there, what do you mean besides like the plaza?
they're riding the routes all the time. So they're really only at the plaza kind of as pass through when they're connected to the
Okay,
bus.
so they're just riding different routes.
And they're
Check out
talking with
folks.
passengers, they're observing, incidents. And so one thing about our security enforcement, we want to make sure we're not targeting particular population because there's an inference that they might be, doing something wrong. We want to make sure it's based on data, that there is a track of something happening on a particular route. Just our experience as an observation, generally, high school students are some of our biggest challenges when it comes to behavioral issues. And
Thanks a
so,
lot of high schoolers getting on the bus after school. No problems.
No
ever.
problems, yeah. And so, so a lot of the issues are fairly, and they're things that can be addressed right then and there, and helping these individuals understand that there's rules. We know, working with the school district, that it's helpful for the students to know that we're talking with the school district, and that we're sharing notes to say these are happening, because they're very interested in helping these young adults prepare for adulthood and being responsible citizens. And so that extends beyond the classroom, right? And especially when they're coming to school or not going to school because they're riding the bus. So that's something we're actively working on. Again, the transit ambassadors are part of that.
Quick question on the shelters. What portion of the stops currently have one? And then would there be a certain goal to hit in terms of a number? Or is that still to be determined?
Emily, you want to give the number of shelters?
So in 2024, and we're compiling 2025 numbers now, we had 159 stops that had shelters that weren't at places like the plaza where there was an overhead cover that sheltered the stop. Since that time, we had a goal of installing an additional 34 shelters in 2024. I have to double check, but I believe that we had 14 of those installed. And then of the 34, and then we plan to do the remaining 10 in 2026, but we actually have a larger list of 152 stop improvements that are part of this effort. And some of those will be sheltered. We just had a smaller list that we had shared with the board that were a targeted list for improvements, including shelters. So we have, but we are compiling 2025 numbers now, so that should give us a fuller picture. And as part of that annual route performance report, we identify the stops that meet our criteria for shelter improvements. And we look at what projects we have that already target those for shelters. That list of 34 was just that we're not already part of some other programmatic way to have a shelter installed at the stop.
How many total stops are there?
As of, again, 2024 numbers, it was 1,709. So as we compile the 2025 numbers, that will adjust slightly depending on what stops were closed or consolidated, what were.
Our focus is stops based on a policy warrant of 25 boardings or more. And when we look at the proportion of riders who have a sheltered weight experience, it's almost 2/3 of our riders. So even though it's a small proportion, we say less than 10% of stops have shelters, it's about 2/3 of riders. So many stops. My stop in the morning, it's 15 boardings a day. I enjoy that stop, but I don't have a shelter. And as there are so many locations, these are one of the reasons we didn't hit our goal with the number of shelters is the right-of-way acquisition. So many of the stops, in order to place a shelter, we have to acquire some type of easement or right-of-way agreement with the adjoining property owner. And even when they are amenable to it, it can take longer than you would expect for a small project like that.
And that's the unfortunate thing, is that you have a lot of busy routes. I'm thinking of where on Hamilton Street in Nevada, where there's a lot of ridership, but there's hardly any shelters. And I'm assuming that's a right of way issue.
Yes. Yeah, so those will take time, and part of our investments, Wellesley is another good example of
Yeah,
that.
There's a lot of riders.
And high performance transit, we do have funding in the plan to invest in high performance transit, and that we do expect to really double down on acquiring the right of way to do that. And it will be more challenging, but it takes time and effort, and that's where focusing where the ridership is really key to the effort.
But the lighting makes a huge difference. I don't notice, obviously in the summertime, I don't notice it as much, but in the winter, just because you have lighting in all of the Central City Line stations. And when I drive at night during the winter and I see the light on there, it just gives it feels more secure and safe. And it's just, it's good for the rider and for the drivers too, driving by, just so people are aware of what's going on and safety.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And then other optimizations, we're still looking at how do we make the system more efficient while still extending areas of Spokane Valley as it continues to grow, and it continues we're really excited about the Pines grade separation project. We don't run buses in that direction because it not be really reliable at all. So we plan to do a route restructure out in the Spokane Valley area to support more connectivity to the industrial park from multiple locations. Next slide. So overall impacts, we have of the houses that been built. And I think, what's the time frame for this last decade?
That is between 2020 and 2024.
Okay, last 5 years is for every 1 unit was built. See if I'm reading this correctly. Basically, most units were built within a 10-minute walk of transit. So we're seeing that kind of concentration. Higher density obviously is going towards transit, which is great. It means that people are having more opportunities for jobs and access to education and services when there's more housing built by transit. And 160,000 jobs across the region are within a quarter mile of the bus stop. So that's significant, and that's ultimately, one of our economic impacts drivers is how do we get people to work? That's work and school are largely what people use transit for, and so we see that as a very successful thing. Next slide. So as we look forward, sometime in the next several years, the board will need to, in order to sustain the system, we'll need to ask voters to approve a renewal of the sales tax, that 2/10 in particular. And most of that, that's a 2/10 is 1 cent for every $5 of a retail purchase. That's primarily to sustain the service added. But we are in a strong financial position right now where the funds, the one-time money in the bank would go to improve the system and service. So that is delivering on the projects and initiatives of Connect 2035. So that's the conversation we're having with the community. We want to make sure you're aware of it. And happy to, I think, is this my last slide? I think so. So there is a link to it, but happy to answer any other questions you may have, just that broader awareness. The STA board will need to make a decision on when to go to the ballot. The expectations is it would be just a 2/10 renewal. We certainly have people come to our board meetings and advocating for more. I always love more transit service, but I think within the current climate, our key message right now is let's retain the system we have and invest the dollars we have in the bank to deliver improvements. And then that gives the community a place to be in the future, of whether they grow or make other changes. Any other questions?
It's the sunset.
The sunset is December of 2028. In order to have that decision made, we'd have to be as no later than August of 2028 in order to not have the tax go down and come back out after 1 quarter.
So between now and then, it'll be when to put it on the ballot.
Right. That's ultimately up to the STA board. Understanding dynamics. One of the things that we have the money in the bank. Do we invest in projects when we don't have the confidence that we'll be able to sustain the investments afterwards with the ongoing sales tax revenue? So kind of puts us in a holding pattern, as we've shared with the board, and they understand that holding pattern is awkward because when we have significant cash in the bank, we're not able to invest in the community, and yet if we use it and then have to cancel service in the future because we're pulling back service, it would be investments that don't have long-term benefits.
The on-demand pilot, would that be geographically limited to certain areas? And those were the ones listed.
Yeah, there's those areas listed. So it could expand into the future, right? But they are pilots, and so they are time limited, and then we'll see. They would need some other ongoing funding after that. Thank you.
Now, is there any other questions of Allard, Josh? Commissioner French, or is it Kyle?
Well,
No, I don't have anything.
Kyle,
Hey, good morning, Carl. I just wanted to ask you a little follow-up. That mobility on demand is very interesting. Is that only to an STA facility? I'm thinking about an Eastern student that needs to get 5 miles to a park and ride. On the return trip, are they able to get home, or is it just a one-way to STA facilities?
Great question. It'd be to and from. And so or within that zone. So if let's say an EW student that lives in Eagle Ridge, start the day, they can take this to a transit facility, let's say Jefferson Park and Ride, they take the bus out to Eastern. In the afternoon, they want to go on their way home, they want to stop by Yokes out there. They can take a ride to Yokes, and then we would have some allowance for intra-zone trips. And so then they could go from the Park and Ride to Yokes and then Yokes to home in Eagle Ridge.
Cool. I love it.
It's great. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You guys have been busy.
Uh,
Yeah, no,
To be busy.
doing great things. So
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so next, Jeff and John, it looks like.
You guys should have a copy of this. I just didn't know if you have it super handy.
No, we're just gonna bring copies.
You know me.
We're in the conference room.
Readable. So looking at the federal agenda, as by way of reminder, I believe the board is still looking at the Thorpe Road second gate entrance out on the West Plains of Fairchild for the earmark request in Congressman Claus Gardner's office. We are needing to make a decision if we're going to be doing something with the senators, and if so, what would that one look like? And so John. let's do those.
Yeah, well, and just a couple updates based on our last meeting. I did put on for a federal agenda, the Miracle Act, which is a piece of legislation sponsored by Matt's Place, which I know insurance very supportive of. I changed some of the language to monitor, when we had talked about things the administration was gonna do. I think we just decided to take a very neutral path. So we're on monitor a lot of these. I did add a piece of housing legislation. That I think is very much a development friendly piece of legislation that has bipartisan support. And so we don't necessarily have to get into that now. I did put a analysis on the back so you can look at it. And let me know if you have any flags, we can adjust as needed. So in terms of our ask of the senator, let's have her here. Yeah,
She's up and up.
okay. So a couple things. We had first talked about the removal of the mobile home parks in the APZ2 at Fairchild Air Force Base, understanding this has been a long concern for the county. Of course, you know, we've had some issues. We've had to give state money back just because of some of the, you know, how much properties cost in terms of what the owners are asking. There have been a couple ideas, not from any of the commissioners, but if we decide that we want to continue down the path of looking at procurement, you know, there are options that I know are not popular for everyone, i.e. eminent domain. If that's something that you'd all like to discuss, I think we could certainly look at that being earmark request this year to get some dollars to help with removal. I know it's a very big conversation, you know, obviously. So secondly, a little bit easier conversation would be the Centennial Trail and that connectivity by Upriver and Argonne.
River, Argonne, Millwood area.
Yeah, and so Jeff's talked to Public Works.
Kyle and Matt are probably on.
Yep, Kyle and Matt are on. So it does sound like this is a viable project. Kyle or Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I do believe this is something most senators would support. I think it's got a lot of benefit.
It'd be a phase one.
Would that align with our Argonne Future Road?
Kyle,
You know, expansion project?
yeah, Kyle or Matt, do one of you want to speak to that? there.
Morning, Commissioner. I'm sorry, I had somebody in my office. Can I hear the question again?
Oh, we're just talking about the putting in a request for the Argonne Road Centennial Trail connection.
Mhm.
That's something that I know we've talked about in the past. So how would that fit into where we're at, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, in our conversations with Jeff, it sounds like the reasonable size for the ask was in the $2 to $3 million range. And we gave Jeff the language for our item out of the transportation plan that's very, very broad. We have a bunch of things going on with the Argonne corridor. As I think the board knows, we're doing a study of the intersection of Upriver and Argonne that's wrapping up. We have a preferred alternative that's been proposed, and that's going to be moving forward. And at the same time, we're working on the Centennial Trail gap and the analysis of that. So we got a couple studies that are starting to bear fruit, and those will turn into projects. We're also putting in other project requests. So how this fits in and where will be a little dependent upon the timing of the earmark, but a $2 to $3 million ask is very usable in terms of fitting it in with other projects that we have going on.
And it'd be for the Centennial Trail connection.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, it's the item that we point to in our transportation plan is very broad. It's the intersection, it's the corridor, it's Argonne going up the hill, it's the gap in the Centennial Trail. So it gives us a lot of options. We've seen in the past where if we get too narrow on our earmark requests, that can hurt us. So we're keeping it very broad this time.
Our thought was keep it really broad. As the studies come back, then we can narrow it down, possibly between getting in and then when you plug the paper. It's always easy to narrow scope, difficult to expand scope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if the board is interested, we thought we'd put in the broad scope, as Matt just said,
Improving the intersection,
Correct.
including.
including the trail, road, blah, blah, blah. And then
Blah, blah, blah.
sorry. Matt said it very eloquently already. And then if we get it, or if the senators want more specific.
Yeah.
As time goes, we will have more specifics to get.
One thing to note, and I know we've got to be judicious as we pick these projects out, I believe there is a 20% match requirement for this account. So I know that's something we've talked to Public Works extensively about. So board should know that we will have our own financial responsibility, whether that's maybe a matching state ask. You know, it makes sense, but you should be aware that there will be a requirement of the county as well.
If we were to get it in this federal budget, we could add it to our next year's state agenda, hopefully to the state match.
So more study needs to be done to figure out what it would take to actually close that gap on the trail. But this would be money to support that work in general and more specificity as the studies get complete. Is that
When do the current studies come back, Matt? When do you start getting results?
Yeah, I'd have to check on the exact timing. I know we have preliminary recommendations back from the consultants, I believe, on both. But I could check on that and get back with the board. It's pending. The preferred alternative for both the intersection and for the route for the Centennial Trail.
And this is one of the last gaps in the Centennial Trail, is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
I think it's a great idea. I'm happy to start broad. I would anticipate that if we're framing it around a gap, the question would be, well, are we closing it? Or are we half closing it? You know, I think that question will be asked, I would guess.
Do you have a ballpark cost for the overall project? Is that a pretty big number?
You know, not really. It's a bunch of different projects. You know, the gap is not cheap to close. We're putting in a request right now. I believe it's Safe Routes. That's $2 to $3 million, and it's the portion from Boulder Beach and to where you get into the straight portion of Upriver to the east. And just it is $2 to $3 million. So it's an expensive portion to be improving, and Then we're into a neighborhood where you're doing frontages and will be a lot of acquisitions from people through that area. So it's a pretty substantial project, and I suspect it's why the last piece hasn't been filled in. But we're chunking away at it. We have it sectioned into projects, and we're actively pursuing funding for the sections. I think we're in front of you in a week or two. Jamie Hayes will be talking about a grant we got from TIB for one portion of it.
Yeah, it's because it is so long. I mean, eventually we need to improve all the way from Boulder Beach to Argonne, plus the Argonne crossing, and beyond, all the way to, is it Donkey Island? No, it's, what's the name of that trailhead?
It goes to Far and then down to Marengo currently is the preferred alternative. So it goes east, and then we're also looking at a separate Marengo crossing. So there's quite a bit going on.
Yeah. And so knowing that this is a long range piece, as the funding allows, we can break these up into bite-size improvements that'll have a meaningful impact for the community, but we're not necessarily locked into a specific dollar amount because we can kind of pick the limits as we go.
The board like this as the plan that we would send to both senators.
I think so. I mean, I think it's something that I think would resonate with the senators, for something. So I think it'd be something good. It's something that I know when I first became commissioner, the Friends of the Centennial Trail came and talked to me about this gap that we have there, and Argonne is so busy and not having a real good crossing for people. I see it as a good thing.
Well,
Yeah. I think we just may need to develop the messaging and obviously details, but good concept.
so we'll work on a concept. I have a one pager for that. And everybody's still good with the second Fairchild Gate for Becker's office.
And with this ask, we might need to get a few more support letters or a little more, to your point, community support, maybe from tribes and others to help.
City of Millwood.
Yeah.
But I think the Friends of the Centennial Trail, their organization.
City of Spokane Valley, it would be supportive, I would
I
imagine.
think so.
So, just probably gonna have to.
And this doesn't negatively impact our crisis stabilization request, which is still in there somewhere.
Yeah,
I
so,
assume.
you have an
Hanging
update.
out
Oh.
somewhere.
It's the update.
So last update was there were 5 bills being looked at, LHHS being one of them. Then the break happened. There was some Senate to House back and forth between Rep. Cole, who's approached chair on the House side, and Senator Collins, who's approached chair on the Senate side. And magically 2 days ago, they said, okay, well, now a minibus is going to be interior, which I think we all expected. Commerce, justice, and science, which, we weren't necessarily super certain on, and then energy and water. And energy and water was supposed to be a bill that was going to be kicked down the road. It was supposed to be LHHS paired with defense, because that's kind of a normal Republican Democrat kind of leverage.
Wait a moment.
Yeah. So now LHHS, I actually just talked to Senator Murray's DC office for healthcare person this morning, and she said it's being pushed back just a little bit. So House will get a vote and pass the 3 bills, the minibus this week. Senate will take it up next week. The president will sign it back into next week, or, that is theoretically what is supposed to happen. And then, just counting the calendar of 4 days, they're really gonna have to figure out LHHS, defense, homeland security, some of the other bills pretty quickly in the next week and a half. So
And that's where our project is.
ours lives in LHHS. Yes, it does.
But just to summarize, they came to agreement on some of but not how these other areas, these bills are gonna be. Okay,
Yeah, so there's 12 bills total. We passed 3, about to pass another 3.
there's still
Still 6
6 to
left.
go. Okay.
Yeah. And defense and LHHS are big bills. But top lines have been agreed upon across the board, so. We're not in a bad situation, it's just
Time.
we're waiting.
So what happens if the LHHS bill is not passed by whatever that
Yeah,
timeline? Yeah, what happens then?
I mean, there's multiple options. They could package a CR for the entire year. They could do a short-term CR. They could shut down.
So that's the shutdown deadline.
Yeah, at this point, it'd be a partial shutdown.
Oh, yeah, all right,
If your department is funded, it would stay open.
right.
It's not funded.
Okay.
So I will say the president does not want to shut down, does not want a CR. There's a lot of appetite to get appropriations bills across the finish line. Negotiations have been happening. It's,
Will Collins and Cole want to pass bills.
yeah,
The chairs, she's helpful.
and Senator Murray. So obviously, huge advocate for this project, so she understands kind of what's on the line. So I don't want to be doom and gloom. That is not at all what I want to say. I just would rather be here and tell you, hey, minibus that could be in the next 2 weeks is going to be LHHS. Do not know if that is true.
So these projects are for the next cycle.
Next time,
Okay,
yep.
all right.
Which
27, this piece of paper.
I think leads to the last point is. We should get there in February. I think commissioners, whoever wants to be there, we certainly should have a presence in February. If there are multiple trips planned by each commissioner in different months, love to kind of coordinate with everyone so we can continually be back there. I think one of the benefits of this is we can go in and say, hey, here are healthcare, public health, needs. Oh, by the way, we have earmark asks. We can then go ahead and say, hey, we love this housing policy and meet with different staff, continue to socialize. So basically, we have a reason to be there. That's not just our earmark request. And we're continuing to build that relationship with new staff. I would say Senator Cantwell's staff, there's been a lot of turnover. Their healthcare, LA just left, healthcare, LC just left. Johnny just left. Nassim on transportation, their ag person, actually just from the Senator Murray's office. So we have to establish a new relationship with Senator Cantwell's office, almost complete new relationship. Riley locally, of course, will be helpful with whatever we need. Yeah, so there you go.
We have a plan?
Think so? I'll be there for NACO, NALBO and NHF.
Okay, okay. Well, that's what I was thinking.
All the
Everyone's, yes, and I know Commissioner French is there for various, yeah.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Transit.
So hopefully we can all coordinate on all the things. Are we going to approve the federal agenda?
So that is the question. Do you guys want to approve or make this a formal agenda? Or treat it more like a working document? The Fed's a little different than the state where you get longer meetings, which you simply just let the legislators to go over in more detail. Versus, your 15-minute blocks, we often operate in at the federal level. So didn't know how formal you wanted this to be. We can put a resolution on it and do it like the state agenda where it would be a formally adopted. Or it could just be kind of a working document that we keep. As he was just kind of talking.
Yeah,
about.
I was gonna say, just as you were saying, things keep changing rapidly. So it seems like it'd be better to keep it a working document.
Okay.
In my mind, but Commissioner French?
Yeah, my 2 cents would be that we keep it as a loose document so that we can adjust to whatever the dynamics are in DC, which seem to be changing pretty rapidly. So hate to get locked into something and then not be able to talk about it when we're back in DC.
I think it's a really good working document. So thanks, John, for all your work on researching a lot of detail. It's really helpful.
You guys, you all have this in your inbox. It's also in today's read ahead. We will at least circulate the 1-pager, kind of what we sent back for the earmark. You wanted to come back to this body, or you could just circulate it individually and kind of bring it together.
Circulate that.
Give input.
That's generally we've done in the
Edits.
past, is board and circulated and. We haven't been super formal on those.
I just always send it to you and you can send me.
Yeah, I usually work with Matt on the language when it's a transportation related.
Yeah.
And then just kind of send it around for feedback and comments and then. On minutes for final thoughts.
What, remind me what the timeline is for actual submissions for the parks?
So it varies per member, but I think portals typically open in February, close end of February or March, depending. It will coincide with when the subcommittees require submissions to be made. I will say with the House, Jeff and I actually were just talking about already putting things together, because last couple of years, the House windows like week or two really quick. And so nobody knows. Yeah, so we basically, Rep. Baumgartner's very well aware of this project. I know Commissioner Kearns and Ron, you've been talking to him quite a bit, so I think he knows this is coming. Staff all knows this is coming. Yeah.
I just slightly miscellaneous, but related to the state, when I was reading over our state legislative agenda that we adopted in December, I was thinking we should update the new name of the crisis state, the expansion to the new name. That was just something I wanted to flag. The Path Recovery Center. If we're gonna start using that new name, we should have it on any of the documents we bring to the state, or
That's yeah.
updating Senator Murray's office.
Are you guys fine if we just update that and use it that way?
I think we had already created it before we chose the new
Yeah.
name, nomenclature, yes.
So I'll just update that and send it back around.
So I need to practice using the new terminology.
Path, correct? Acronym for something.
Something in Recovery Center.
Justice, it's a good name.
It's a great name.
By the way, on the state side,
Yeah, in a PATH.
PATH, but it's not an acronym.
Oh, and then we're calling it something Recovery Center.
I think it's Stabilization and Recovery Center.
Anyway,
I'll check with Justin.
yes,
I think he will have the official.
we should be consistent whatever we're doing.
Get our act together.
If we get it on there, maybe we'll all learn it better.
So we shouldn't put dots between the PATH if it's not standing for something. Everyone's gonna ask us, what does that stand
It's like
for?
the HUD home program. It's not an acronym. It's just home.
I was wondering why that was, yeah.
It's not an acronym, just home,
So
but all caps.
No, it's an acronym.
Don't agree with you.
Assessment, treatment, healing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
See? Okay, I thought so.
we don't know that.
Prevention, assessment,
Treatment,
treatment.
healing. We should just call it the Path Center. There we go.
Did none of you read the email Pat sent us a few weeks ago, guys? Come
Oh, you
on.
know, I lost it already. New year.
That's so last year.
Just so everyone's aware, flagging that at the state level, do you know Maddie's Place and the work they're doing with Senator Riccelli? They're looking to, you know about this. I don't know if you put this.
Well, I think he's trying to actually, if I'm understanding it, Senator Riccelli is trying to run a bill that would actually require the state to cover the services.
Yep, yep.
Rather than just
Medicaid
waiting, as we've been waiting and waiting for the healthcare authority to make that. This would actually change the
Yeah,
uh
Medicaid, we'll get
rule.
yeah, and so we'll get a code, go through all the things. Of course, we let HCA decide what it wants to do. Bunty is gone, so there's a lot of change in leadership, new government, all those things. So, or governor, so just flagging if it's something that you all want to support. It is out there. I think members in the House and Senate, both sides, lots of, I think most people are on board. I think that will, I don't know if it's gonna supplant funding that the county provides for Maddie's Place, or has been, but it certainly will help them with long-term viability regardless, which is the goal. So.
And we'll just make sure that Burgess adds that to our list of bills that we want to give a thumbs up on.
I think it's there, but.
We're just gonna always talk to Kyla. It's our state fund, City Valley's, Kyla's leading all of that.
Not really talking about it that are.
I'll make sure it's on the list. Oh, man.
Any other questions or comments for John and Jeff before they leave? Not seeing any. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Like the first week of January, we have the agenda.
Top of it.
Okay, next we have Erin.
Good morning. I will not be gracing you with my presence on the screen today. I'm working through a cold.
So you sound like it.
Thank you. Yes, it's lovely. Today, I was hoping legal Wes Zickow would be joining me as well. But I don't see him appearing there quite yet. But I'm here today to brief you on an interlocal agreement for the Fair and Expo with the West Valley School District. This is a new agreement. The agreement is in regards to West Valley School District using the Fair and Expo as an evacuation and reunification site if they were to have some type of mass incident within their school district and they needed to move the students to one location. Something we've been in discussion with them the last few years. And with Wes's help, we were able to put this agreement together. So just wanted to brief you on that. And then it would be on the schedule, on the agenda for your approval on January 13th. So just at this time, I open it up to any questions.
I don't think so. I think I think it's great to be able to do that and help out the school district and have that agreement in place because it's, as we know, with all the emergency planning, I think it's important for them to have a spot. So glad we're able to help facilitate that.
Great.
Thank you. Well, then you just get better.
All right. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks. You too.
Bye.
Matt, is Preston
Yes, here, so.
okay? Good morning, Preston.
How are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, happy new year.
Here. Let you go.
Yeah, well, obviously this one hopefully is super simple. So rather than asking for money, I'm asking you to accept money through the STOP grant. So this is a grant that we partner with the Sheriff's Office through the Violence Against Women's Act that provides, it's about $23,000 worth of funding that we split up between different staff in our domestic violence unit as well as advocacy. So obviously I would ask the board accept this. We've been doing this grant for quite some time. I will say it's one of the more tedious grants that we have because it requires a lot of tracking from the Sheriff's Office as well as our office in terms of hours and the work. But it is, I think, very well used and appreciate it if we can continue receiving it. So that's about all I got.
Any questions?
Right. Well, I appreciate it. Good to see you all. You look a little more excited than you did at the end of last year.
How do we look bad?
Wow.
Jeez.
I think getting through the final budget and all that is tedious. But anyways, so yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, good. I don't know if you're staying for the next one, but
Yeah, I might stick around and watch.
okay. Information.
Yeah.
We've got the next one.
Yeah, Jim can help me out here if I miss anything. So this is a briefing on Restorical. We have a contract with them. We've had it in place for about 3 years. Back in Restorical. So Restorical is a company that our purchasing department identified back in 22. And their specialty is identifying on behalf of companies. They do a lot of work with governmental entities across the state of Washington and elsewhere. But they identify where environmental costs have been incurred for remediation by entities where a third party who may have owned the property or whatnot previously or may have contributed to the contamination, they assist with identifying where those situations may exist through partnering with our solid waste, our landfill team, to look at some historical documents and identify where they might be able to subrogate claims back against those third-party insurers and recover money that was spent by Spokane County that should have been paid for by previous insurance companies. So it was a very interesting presentation that we received. The commissioners decided to move forward with this company. As you can imagine, as they start to get their arms around all of the historical activities that the county's been involved with over many, many, many years and the various landfills that we have, it takes a lot of energy to identify opportunities for us to recover dollars. So we've been working with them for about 3 years. They've been a very good firm for us. To date, they've identified one particular subrogation situation where we were able to receive $25,000 back. Restorical gets 10% of the proceeds that we receive. We also have a couple of additional larger potential settlement dollars that I think Jim will be briefing the board here in the upcoming weeks that Restorical has identified and are well underway. There are times where we use a third party legal firm who specializes in this and gets deputized by the prosecutor's office that has some additional costs. But in the cases that we've been working on, the county nets a substantial amount of the recovery from. So we've had a good working relationship with them. They've done good work for us, good partnership, and we have an opportunity for some additional upcoming recoveries as well. So we're recommending that we extend this contract for another 3 years. Like I said, it only obligates us to pay on a contingent basis 10% of things if we recover. And we can, I believe, terminate it at any time for convenience. So there's
That's
no,
correct.
yeah, so there's really, it was kind of a pilot. We tried out. It sounded interesting and it has borne some fruit for us. And given the landfills that we have, I think it's very helpful. And the board has initially determined that dollars that we recover will be put in our landfill remediation accounts because that is a large long-term liability that the county does have. So anything I missed, Jim?
Scott, you hit the nail on the head. I think the board needs to understand that Restorical Research have done a horrendous amount of job so far to assist the county's team in recovering against insurance carriers. And all the recoveries go back to the 1980s when we had insurance companies way back then who had responsibilities to assist us in our remediation responsibilities for the landfills in particular. We had initially about 12 sites, which we looked at, and we determined that the only viable sites were the landfill sites. And so Restorical came over and they've gone through literally hundreds of boxes of records. And when you bring an action against an insurance carrier for recovery, not only do you have to show that you had an insurance policy, which is the easiest thing, but you've got to show the exact expenditures that you incurred in environmental research. And fortunately, our landfill staff have those records in a lot of boxes. So Restorical, who's out of Seattle, they come over, go through the boxes, pull out the information, which makes it much easier for the county to be successful in our claims against insurance companies. And so, like Scott, I think legal staff is also recommending that we extend the contract for 3 more years, subject to the same terms and conditions. And one of those board members is they get 10% of any recovery. But we believe so far we've only received $25,000. They got 10% of that. But we believe we have some, as Scott indicated, some upcoming recoveries that will generate substantially more money. So unless you have any more questions, Madam Chair, I will place this on next Tuesday's legislative consent agenda, the extension for 3 more years.
And that's the only thing, the existing contract stays in place, terms and conditions. The only thing that's changed is the date for performance. So it's another 3-year extension. Everything else is the same.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice to see you, Jim. Take us to Dr. Zhang. Let's see, Ron. There she is. Dr. Zhang, I think we're ready for you.
Yes, sorry, I'm here. I'm for some reason can't get my, oh, here we can't get my camera on. But I can start talking anyway. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
just fine.
Great. Happy New Year. I think, oh, here we go. Hi, good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm here to brief you on a grant opportunity for the Medical Examiner's Office. This is a federal grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance under the Paul Coverdell Forensic Science Improvement Grant Program. It's a program that's intended to improve current operations or medical examiner coroner services. And we are an indirect recipient of these funds. They've actually been awarded to Washington State Patrol, and then we'll be the sub-recipient of $58,255 of those funds. And those will be designated to purchase testing kits for our Randox toxicology testing machines. Those are the machines that we use for overdose surveillance and to triage and sign out potential overdose cases. And then another portion of the funds will be used to purchase a supply of body bags, which we always like to keep on hand for the purpose of regional mass fatality preparedness. So just to clarify, the paperwork that was initially entered, I believe what had them as the funds as fiscal year 2025. That's incorrect. It's been updated now to fiscal year 2024. The funding was a little bit delayed due to some uncertainty about funding streams. And I clarify that because we've also applied for fiscal year 2025 funds, but we haven't yet heard about those. So what's before us today is for fiscal year 2024 funds. So I don't know if you had any questions or.
So just checking. So have we already received those? We haven't received those funds yet.
We have not received the funds yet. So the Washington State Patrol has the funds. We're working through the workday process to enter the budget categories and so on. But the funds are ready for disbursement at this point.
Any questions? I think we're good on that. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Maybe take it around. Okay, so yeah, just hang on. So that's going to take us to the end of the items that are on our agenda. Is there any miscellaneous items before we go into executive sessions? Not. Happy to have everybody back. Then I will let Matt go ahead and take us away for our executive sessions.
Thank you. We have 5 executive sessions today. They are all pending and potential litigation. There's no action anticipated at the end of any of them. The total amount of time is an hour and 21 minutes.
To be precise. Okay.
The first is 20 minutes, like Matt Folsom, Scott Simmons, Jeff McMorris, Stephen Kurda, Kyle Tuig, Ben Bradivo, Martha Liu, and Meredith Weinberg, our special DPA president. The second is Matt Folsom, Scott Simmons, Jeff McMorris, Devin Kurda, Wes Zickow, Dr. Singh, Mike Sparber, Ashley Cloud, and Martha Liu. The third, Matt Folsom, Scott Simmons, Jeff McMorris, Devin Kurda, Dan Gadd, Ashley Cloud. Fourth, Matt Folsom, Scott Simmons, Jeff McMorris, Devin Kurda, the same group for the last one.
Okay. Commissioner French.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to also put on the table, and it doesn't have to be today or this morning. It could be this afternoon, but an executive session for probably about 15 minutes pending a potential litigation. The
Okay.
ones present would be the board members, Matt, Scott, and that would be about it.
Commissioner French, if it doesn't have to be done today, could we move that to next week and then you and I could talk beforehand?
Sure. Put me off. No, that's fine. No,
I thought that's what you said.
no, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
This afternoon.
Oh, this afternoon, okay.
So do you want to, this afternoon or next week?
Oh, if I misunderstood and he said this morning or this afternoon, then let's do it today.
Okay.
But if it works out better for the board to do it next week, there's not a great deal of time sensitivity to it, but it would be very opportunistic to be able to deal with it sooner than later. So, but next week would be fine too.
And for the fourth one, I'd like to add Kyle Tuig. And Commissioner French is at the end today.
Okay. We'll do that. So it's just another 15 minutes. Yeah. Okay, you're gonna go into executive session for pending potential litigation for 6 different items. No action anticipated on any of those items. At the end of the executive session, we will adjourn for the morning. And see everybody back for our 2 o'clock. Thank you.